The Crew 3. The Crew 3. The Crew 3. Let's talk about the Crew 3. The Crew 3 must return to its roots from the Crew 1. That's what we're going to be talking about today in this video about the Crew 3. And I'm sounding like I'm high on fucking coke right now. The next generation of consoles is on the horizon. Ivory Tower should be looking more and more into the Crew 3 if they have not started already. Game companies are always, doesn't matter how many years they are intending on uploading. What the fuck am I talking about? Doesn't matter how many years they're planning on releasing their next game. They're always gonna be looking into the future of their franchise. And they're definitely doing that with the Crew 3. So this is why I want to make these videos talking about the Crew 3 now. It may seem kind of foolish and it may seem stupid, considering that the Crew 2 is still within its lifespan. But I really want to talk about the Crew 3 because the Crew 2 has done nothing but divide the community over the past 2 years of its existence. And let's talk about that for a second. The Crew 1 had a lifespan of about 2 years. Game came out late 2014. And then by 2016, the final expansion, Calling All Units, came out. That's a little less than 2 years, actually. After that, a couple months later, in the summer of 2017, we got the Crew 2 announcement. So, and with next gen on the horizon, and with this being the second year of the Crew 2's lifespan, I firmly believe that this will be the last year of the Crew 2. And I'm actually kind of hoping it is, because I would rather see the Crew 3 sooner than later. And I would really like it if the Crew 3 returned to their roots, for reasons I'm going to talk about now. The last few Crew 2 updates were lackluster at the very least. Inner Drive, no new events. They added in new character models, okay. And they added in these hobbies things, which kind of seem like an afterthought at this point. Looking back, they really feel like an afterthought. They really feel like something, they're like, oh shit, we gotta put something out, fuck. Here, just make them do all the shit that they've been doing for the past 2 years. I'll keep them busy. Leads me to believe, last time we saw something like this was with Calling All Units. Calling All Units, if you don't remember, you could tell it had a lot less development than Wild Run. It was just less thought out, less content overall. It just wasn't as good of an expansion as Wild Run was. And then you could tell a couple months later, the Crew 2, you could tell they were their main A team was working on the Crew 2. They kind of had like a B team working on and Calling All Units. So that's really what I think is going on here. I really don't think the main Ivory Tower team is working on Inner Drive and all these updates. I have a feeling they're either working on an expansion for the Crew 2 or the Crew 3, and I kind of hope it's the latter. We know there's more content coming to the Crew 2, especially this summer, and they're actually announcing something late June 27th, I believe. They're announcing something. I'm kind of hoping it's kind of like the last hoorah for the Crew 2, because again, the game's been out for 2 years and it's not even gotten close to how the Crew 1 was. Done nothing but divide the community, and even the people who stuck around for the Crew 2 and enjoyed the Crew 2 for what it was, even now they're becoming divided, and with the Crew 2 community straight up not having a good time right now, especially with all the microtransactions, fiascos, and all of this, the bullshit going on. The new handling model, a lot of people like it, a lot of people don't like it. Again, dividing the community. The Crew community seems to be more divided than fucking the United States community at this point. But yeah, with the Crew 3, Ivory Tower really needs to kind of unify the community again. There's a lot of people who like the street racing illegal aspect of the Crew 1. There's a lot of people who like the legal side of things with the Crew 2. So with the Crew 1, they really kind of need, in my opinion, to go back to their roots. And go back and start off with illegal street racing. You start off as an illegal street racer in a city. It's all grimy, gritty, Need for Speed Underground feel, basically. There's ton of customization, JDM, muscle cars, tuner, basically cars you'd find at a typical street racing scene. You start off with like a bunch of clunkers and stuff, and then you work your way up to better vehicles. And the game starts off kind of in like a gritty city area, and you're outrunning the cops. You're doing illegal street races, street drifts, drag races. You're kind of like running from the cops all the time. That's kind of the feel that we got out of the Crew 1. And that's kind of the feeling we would like to see in a future Crew game, at least when you're starting off. And then, like, the game really, when you first started off, felt like a Need for Speed Underground-esque game. And then the game, as you progressed it to nicer cars, like performance cars, like Grand Tourer cars, hypercars, the game more transitioned more into like a Test Drive Unlimited feel, where you're kind of driving through these sweeping valley roads, you're in the countryside through these farms and everything. And that's where the game should really progress from then on. You You start off as an illegal street racer, and you work your way up into these, like, I guess you could say clubs or whatever, these illegal street racing clubs where you're racing hypercars and performance cars through these, like, country roads and everything. And it kind of transitions into a nice Test Drive Unlimited field game. And one of the things I really liked about the Crew 1 was how it was able to just mold all these different nodes of different racing games together, these different flavor nodes together. You had flavors of Underground, Test Drive Unlimited, Forza, Dirt, even games like Smuggler's Run. Like they were pulling influences from all different places, and they all molded it into something unique. Unlike the Crew 2, where they just copied Forza Horizon, and that's literally it, and it feels like a crappy Forza Horizon ripoff. So you have all these different kind of like flavors. You have illegal street racing, inner city vibe. You have street racing where you're in hypercars, outrun, dodging traffic. You have hypercar cops come after you. Who knows? You could have some Hot Pursuit-esque vibes in there as well. And you work your way up driving like those type of vehicles in the countryside and everything. Again, like Test Drive Unlimited, and then this is where the game would also transition into the off-roading aspect, like the Smuggler's Run aspect and the just the off-roading rally stages aspect. And this is where I would start actually incorporating stuff from the Crew 2. At this point, I feel like the game should really offer you two branches in terms of end game. You have, obviously, you can continue as an illegal street racer, outrunning cops, delivering packages, which we all know are drugs, in the Crew 1. Or you could progress on the legal side and partake in legal street races. I feel like if they want to do legal street racing in the Crew 2, they need to do a much better job with the atmosphere. I'm thinking something like more like Pro Street. I've been playing through Pro Street recently, and the atmosphere in that game is so good. So I would have like a festival or like a racing championship like in Pro Street, Need for Speed Pro Street, where you race around the country legally street racing, partaking in like drift competitions, racing tournament championships, that type of stuff, and have like racing championships like on the track and on the streets and everything. I feel like that would be a great way to have like two branches for the community, because there's people who like doing both sides of the thing, and that's partially the fault of the Crew 2 for dividing the community so much. But yeah, have those two in there, so people who want to do illegal shit can do illegal shit, and people who want to do legal shit can do legal shit. And in each branch offers like their own unique things. For example, I guess the illegal would be outrunning the cops, getting in high-speed chases, that type of stuff. And then the legal aspect would be having racing sponsorships, doing like tournaments and everything, and becoming a popular person, a popular racing figure, and maybe being able to start like your own team. Like the game's called The Crew for a reason. They could easily like spin this to where you could have, if you're an illegal street racer, you can form your own crew, have your own leaders, like have your like a full fucking crew system like in Forza, where you can assign head honchos, people who are like moderators, I guess, in the crew, have a bunch of people join your crew. And then if you want on the legal side of things, you could start a racing team and have pretty much the same thing on the racing side, legal racing side of things. And of course, the Crew 3 needs to have PvP on launch, so it'd be really cool to see them have an illegal side of PvP, like say cops and robbers mode, where it's like kind of like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, or like Calling All Units, where you have a team of cops and a team of racers. The cops have to take people out, and they have like health bars and everything, and weapons and everything. That would be a cool thing for PvP on the illegal side. You have illegal street racing, of course, and all that type of stuff. Inner city street racing with shortcuts and everything, you name it. And then you also have a legal PvP, where you have championships, track racing, the works, that type of stuff, like penalties and everything. I think that could work. And of course, the summit. I'm not sure how they would do the summit, but the summit needs to be there on launch, if not like a month or two afterwards. It can't not wait over a year for the summit to come back. That's something that needs to come back. And notice this entire time how I didn't talk anything about Planes and Boats, because I don't believe Planes and Boats should be in the next Crew game. Them implementing Planes and Boats into the Crew 2 took way too much development time away from things that actually should have been implemented in the game. I thoroughly believe, and I'm putting my tinfoil hat on here for a second, cops were supposed to be in the Crew 2. I don't care what Ivory Tower say, oh, they're not part of our plan, they're not part of the theme, they don't fit the theme. I think that's bullshit, because there were cops in the trailer, the original trailer for the Crew 2. And I can't think of it, but I remember seeing like the cop icons on the minimap during one of their E3 or Gamescom presentations. cops were more than likely going to be in the crew too, and I'm pretty sure they're even in the game files. So I find that thing bullshit. I just think they ran out of time because they're too focused on adding planes and boats, 2 features nobody asked for, in order to put. And they didn't have enough time to put that in. And that also goes for the reason there was no summit on launch and there was no PvP on launch, because they were too busy putting those 2 things into the game, redesigning the map to fit them in and everything. Too much development went into those things that it just took too much away from what the core game was about and why people came to the crew in the first place. Because figure about it, you have to like redesign the map to be able to drive a boat from one part of the country to the other, have rivers fit for them. You have to redesign whole city blocks, so if you fall from the sky in a car after you were playing, you actually have somewhere to drive through and everything. And you also have to like design and code like dynamic water and everything for the boats, like, and like wind for like the planes and everything, and all the physics that go in with it. It's just too much work that has very little pay. Planes and boats detrimented the crew 2 more than they helped the crew 2. So I don't think they should be put in the crew 3. I don't think there's a place for planes and boats in the crew going forward. Right now, with what Ivory Tower is, they already have a bad reputation of not listening to the community regardless, and they have a bad reputation of not going through and fully fixing things and just being really slow to react. They don't need that extra like planes and boats stuff to worry about. They need to kind of scale back, go back to why people loved the first crew and what people like to do in the second game, and focus on bringing those 2 things, molding them together, and producing a better crew game that can unite the community, because the community is so divided. And that's their fault, because they brought planes and boats into a game and just made it all about getting reputation and being like famous. Like that's not fun at all. I feel like this brings the best of both worlds. I mean, the Crew 1 was such a great blend of a bunch of different racing games. What's stopping Ivory Tower from blending the good aspects of the Crew 2 in the great aspects of the Crew 1 into one and bringing that together? I don't see why they can't do that, and I'm seriously hoping that's what they do with the Crew 3. With next gen on the horizon, the sky's the limit with this game. I seriously hope that they start listening to the community a lot more, and that with the Crew 3 is more of a community-oriented game than the Crew 2 ever was. But that's it for me tonight. What do you guys think about it? Be sure to leave a comment down below in the description. Did I miss anything you would like to see in the Crew 3? Be sure to list it down in the comment section down below. But that's going to be it for me tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Have a good one, guys.